global hit game that originated on the Beeb that isn't Elite? Far-fetched. 3D Pool is a 1989 game from, well, Firebird Microprose, Microstyle, depending on which format you bought it on. Programmed and designed by Orlando M. Pilchard. You'll of course recognise that name from Frack. It is Nick Pelling, who later went on to do the superb port of Wing Commander to the Amiga, as long as you've got a faster Amiga than a 500, that is, but a huge technical achievement. On the originating system, the Beeb, you get this screen showing Maltese Joe. He was the world pool champion at the time. And then you get this menu that offers you B-Boying, an Amiga emulator, Tweenie demo, unrepeatable, demo of the 1,000 Scrolls, forward to see the loading screen again, or Control A for a sound experience. Just very quickly look at these because I think it's interesting. They're on the disc. Yes, the Amiga emulator is the bouncing ball, and all done by Nick Pelling on a standard BBC Micro. There's also this sequencer that you can basically play around with Blue Monday. But what you want to see is the game, so in we go. And that's the competition you'll be taking part in. Different match types available. We're going with tournament. And how well will the BBC handle the 3D? Well, very, very well. The colours do limit it a little bit. You've got either red balls or shaded red balls. So you can zoom in and out, go all the way around the table, and in a fair old lick. So let's place the ball, apply maximum power, and hopefully get a good break. And you can move around while the balls are moving. And that's not a good break, that's a terrible break. Computer's turn now, because I didn't get a ball in. Well, the computer will get something in. No, I didn't see. No, it's not gone in. That's not gone in. So it'll be my turn again. All the usual rules of pool apply. I don't think these are American rules. I think these are UK rules. Just moving this on, you can see we can zoom in and out to get really close to the balls to line things up. And the status is all along the top there, where you're going to, how much spin you're going to apply, how much power, what ball colour you're aiming at, and so on. Being a Nick Pelling game, there is an Acorn Electron version. Now, I've tried 3 versions of this game to get it running. 2 on tape, 1 on disc, and they all do the same thing. The loading screen flashes, and then the game doesn't actually load. And I'm short of time, so I've had to give up doing direct capture myself. But Steve Green has very kindly loaded the game up on his own Electron, and just used a mobile phone here to record some footage of it. As you can see, as expected, it is slower than the BBC Micro version, and the screen, in order to save memory, is crushed down, so in order to use some of the screen memory for the code. So it looks a little bit odd, but if you've got an ELK, then you could at least play 3D Pool, even if you're playing it slower and in a letterbox. Over to the C64. This version published by Microprose, the BBC and ELK versions by Firebird. So in we go, place the ball. And oh yes, you can see it's a lot slower already. Place the ball, the BBC running a 650, well, Beeb running at 2 MHz, the C64, which runs the same code, don't forget, basically, with the same machine code. 1 MHz, and showing it. Hit it hard and hopefully get a good break. You can move when the balls are moving, but it's very jerky because the CPU is having to do a lot of work. But the computer, who is fast Freddy, has managed to get a ball in there. That means I'm going to be red. And you do have this waiting time when the computer works out its next move, which on the C64 can take quite a while. You're going to be seeing, thinking rather a lot. Spectrum version, and this is Firebird. And on the Specky, it's much faster than the C64. In order to show which ball's the right ball, you've got a ball that basically flashes different patterns. The other ball patterns are clearly designed to make them distinguishable from each other, but look rather odd. Hit the ball at maximum. Oh, some balls have gone in. I may have a choice of balls. You do have to get your head around this, especially coming from the other versions. The fact that, yeah, you've got your ball is flashing, and then you've got striped balls or dotted balls. MSX version, which I think we can guess how this is going to go. It's going to be the Spectrum version, but slower, isn't it? But no, let's not judge before we see. It's the Spectrum version, but slower. Still, it's got the playability of the Specky version, although I can't think there's a reason why the MSX would need to be done in 2 colours. Speaking of ports that could be slow, here's the Amstrad. I had this, I bought it. On the CPC, we're in the 4-colour medium resolution mode. Balls are either red or stripe red. It's clearer than the Spectrum version. In fact, it's quite nice, apart from that horrible stripy wallpaper in the background. Just have to imagine it's a particularly hideous pool and snooker club that we've gone to with green striped wallpaper. Over to the Atari ST, Maltese Joe Barbara plays 3D pool. And of course it's 16 bits, and the impression coming to this later, many years on as we do, of course we think of games like Jimmy White's on 16 bits that are more advanced than 3D pool, but 3D pool was the first to do this 3D perspective. That's an appalling break. I've done a terrible break there. That is possibly one of the worst breaks of all time. On 16 bits, when the computer is thinking, you can still move around the table to have a look at the balls, whereas on the 8 bits, it comes to a halt. But it probably, on 16 bits, slows down the computer thinking through its shots, which still seems to take quite a long time. That's the computer shots there, which wasn't very good, so now we're going to go again. And on the 16 bits as well, you can control it via the mouse. You can also click on the icons up the top there to control the zooming in and zooming out and things like that. And you can go in really close, which, I mean, even closer, I think, than you can on the 8-bit versions, which is really good for lining up tight shots. Of course, in any of these versions, you can't see your cue. Later snooker games have a representation of the cue, but no, on here, you get nothing. Sound effects in all these versions limited to beeps and potting noises and so on. But as I say, you can get in really close. So if I'm going to try and pot this red ball here, I've zoomed right in. I can line myself up so you can see exactly where you're going to go. I just want to give it a yeah, there you go. That's what I wanted to do. Just give it a glancing blow there and knock the red ball in. Over to the Amiga. So again, it's ostensibly the same as the ST. Run this on my A1200, so maybe a little bit faster. It doesn't feel it, so perhaps they've clock locked this on the crack. I'm not sure. It's hard to know what to say about it really, because you can criticise it for some things, but then again, this is the first of its genre, a game type that's been copied so many times. BBC version, where this is just as groundbreaking as, well, on any of these systems really, more so given that it's the Beeb, and the Beeb wasn't really being served well with games by 1989. It's an original game that the other systems benefited from. There is a PC version, it's called Sharky's 3D Pool. For basically time reasons, I'm not featuring that today. It's the 15th of August today. I'm really behind on doing ChinnyVision, and I just don't fancy getting the Amstrad PC 2086 out, because it's going to tie me up for about 90 minutes getting it all running, capturing it and so on. And I really need to be getting on recording this and then doing eSWAT, which you may or may not have seen. So sorry about that, but Sharky's 3D Pool is on the PC. Obviously it takes advantage of whatever clock speed you've got, and it's a little bit more polished. You've got pictures of the opponent players and so on, mouse control, etc, etc. But I'm still marvelling over this Beeb version, because if you'd asked me at the time which format did this game originate on, I would have said ST and Amiga, not the BBC. Back on the 64, where the going is slow. Still, I've got a ball in. Computer's thrashing me, but I've got a ball in. 3D pool takes quite some getting used to on all these systems. It is a real-life simulation of pool, but it's very different to the top-down view you've been used to. And if, like me, coming back to this all these years later, and your preferred pool game is Arcade Pool by Team 17, actually the whole, and we're on the spectrum now, 3D thing feels very different. Of course, if you're a real pool player in real life, in pubs or clubs or whatever, you may prefer this style of game. Even on the specky here, where, as I say, you have to get your head round it, but there's good fun to be had and an increasing level of difficulty with the opponents. If you like ChinnyVision, we have our Patreon. You can visit us in the link in the description below. Got some new rewards, new pens, and the existing mugs, and some new ChinnyVision coasters made in Wales. So check out the Patreon below, or check out our website as well, ChinnyVision.com. MSX with my flashing ball that could be a colour but isn't. We're zoomed in. I'm just going to try and put a glancing blow there without going that went in. It's very satisfying when that happens. What now? Visually, it's still better to have colours for the balls. You can immediately look and see what's going on. You do need to process it. Even on the CPC with the shading, you can kind of process what's going on. But on the Spectrum and MSX, it's almost distracting. I've potted my own ball there. Well done, Chinny. As I had this on my CPC, I didn't play it an awful lot. Back to the ST, where I need to pot a red ball. Of course, Arcade Pool didn't make it to the ST, because Team 17 and the ST are a bit like oil and water. They didn't mix. Oh! Bad luck, player one. Well, that's the closest I've come to winning, which says it all, really. Amiga version. I'm definitely not winning. I have a lot of yellow balls to get in. The computer is almost certainly now going to pot the black ball. And there we go. 3D Pool is a revolutionary pool game. The first proper 3D pool game, and it started life on the BBC Micro. Unbelievable, and it really takes advantage of that extra CPU grunt the Beeb has. No shoddy ports of a late 80s game to the BBC Micro by a third party. No, this game originated on the Beeb, and of the 8-bit, it's the best version there. C64 version is too slow. Specky and MSX, they're both monochrome, and the MSX version doesn't actually need to be. CPC version just about gets away with it, but still doesn't look as attractive as the BBC Micro. Elk version, well, Nick Pelling always liked to put his games onto the Elk. It's an admirable attempt, gave Elk owners something to play, but yeah, you're going to play the Beeb version, aren't you really? ST and Amiga, well, clearly they're a step up. I really liked it on the ST, and on a stock system, and versus a stock A500, the ST will of course be marginally faster, but will lack those extra sampled sound effects. But if I was picking between the ST and Amiga for stock system, I'd be going with the ST. Overall, Arcade Pool is fantastic on the BBC, ST and Amiga. It's a good game on the CPC, and on the Spectrum and MSX, well, if you can put up with the colour issue, then you'll enjoy it as well. C64 just a little bit too slow. I've really enjoyed playing this, and I've really enjoyed seeing what the BBC can do in extremely capable hands.